So I plan to upload a different video today regarding the concept of disambiguation, kind of building on my previous video where I reviewed the need for that in certain debates on the internet. But then I ran across this guy. He's like one of Darth Dawkins' lieutenants, and he just made such a complete fool out of himself that I just really can't resist. Let's get into it.
Mr. Anderson.
Hi, my name is Mr. Anderson, and I'm mean to people on the internet. I like to think I'm always pretty polite about it, though. I just tend to ask difficult questions and insist on the answers. It shouldn't be a big surprise because I'm a lawyer. On my channel, you'll see a lot of stuff to do with debate. My specialty is kind of adapting the tools that we use as lawyers for use in regular debates about religion or politics or the issues of the day, science, that sort of stuff. And today we're going to talk about using those tools in the context of religion. Now, I want to be clear that I'm not against Christians and or other religious people for that matter. I really consider myself more of an agnostic, but when people, start to pretend to have knowledge that they don't have, that's when it's a pretty good foil for the skills that we use in cross-examination, because they can show that definitively, no, you don't. You're not special. You don't know anything more than the rest of us. And so that's the context of today's discussion, because we're going to be talking to a guy named Bach, who's one of Darth Dawkins' lieutenants. And if you want to know more about Darth Dawkins, then you can check out a couple of my videos where the man himself kind of runs from me and mutes me and does what we call the Parker Brothers defense, which is the debate equivalent of this. Anyway, so just for context, this is what Bach had said to me, said about me, I should say, in a recent rant that was uploaded by our friend of the channel, Breakfast Tacos. Here, take a listen.
Well, let me share how dishonest Mr. Anderson is, because this isn't how it played out. I put on his video, I remember recently Mr. Anderson saying Christians don't have access to truth. I asked how he grounds such a claim. He would not answer the question. I asked him at least 5 times. He refused to answer, so he's muted. So here's how he lies. Part of your problem was that your question was malformed. I don't think Christians don't have access to truth. I think they don't have more access to truth than anyone else. So even if he says that, I say, how do you ground the truth of that claim?
He's such a bullshitter, okay? You see, this is the thing.
So, look, first of all, in fairness, I explained that in the comment. He just didn't read that part. But you know what? Maybe that was sort of lost on him. So I figured, I saw him in a room and I thought, here's a good chance for me to have a conversation with the guy, and maybe we can clear up our misunderstanding. And this is what followed. Is that Bach? Is that you? Are you the same guy that was in my comment section talking about how I couldn't justify disbelieving that you weren't special and didn't have access to special knowledge because of your Christianity?
Yep.
Okay. You want to have a conversation about that at this point in time or not?
Yeah, are you going to dodge my questions again?
Well, I might. You might dodge mine, but I think what we need to establish before we start here is that we need to agree if we're going to have a conversation. You understand that you just can't mute me when you start to get into trouble. You can't just have somebody else in the chat mute me when you start to get into trouble, because that's kind of like
you assume I'm going to get into trouble?
Well, yeah, I kind of do. So, if
let's establish your worldview first.
What's that?
Let's establish your worldview first.
One of the other things that we're going to need to talk about is that I'm going to want to talk to just one person at a time, and that person's going to need to be Bach. So, if you want to have a conversation, I think those are the parameters under which we need to have it. If you're not really,
that's
if you're afraid
fine,
of having a conversation on that basis, then that's okay. Just let me know.
Stop with the meta and let's.
I know, dude thinks he's so fucking smart.
Well, I mean, the problem is that so do you.
Let's stop with the personal attacks and accusations, and let's get to the nub here.
No,
Bach,
we're
would
not
you
going to
like
go
ask?
anywhere until we agree on those basics. Do we agree on those basics? I think they're pretty standard, don't you?
We do. Yes, we do. Now let us
Yeah, okay.
question.
So, Bach, you agree with those basics, right? I don't need any moderation. We'll let you know if we need you there, objects. You agree
No,
to those?
I am the moderator here. I'm the
No?
debate moderator, and you will be
Yeah.
muted if you step out of line.
Well, if you
So
mute
let's
me, that's
begin.
fine. That just means Bach loses. So, Bach,
Let's
do you
give
agree to those
Dude,
stipulations?
dude, just chill.
Well,
Try to have a normal human conversation. Just chill and quit with this BS.
we're not going to have a
Yeah,
normal human conversation because I've been in this room a bunch of times and I've been muted a lot. So, if you want to put down your emotional support mute button and have a conversation with me, I'd like you to agree to doing that.
Well, okay. Let's just start. Let's start the conversation now.
No, we need to agree to that. Do we agree?
Okay, so what you need to do is you need to demonstrate that Christians do not have special knowledge from God, a revelation that He is.
Okay, first, before we get into that, I just want to establish the ground rules. Do we agree on the ground rules? I think I set them up fairly clearly. I just need a yes from you.
All right, dude, just stop. Like, are you going to have the conversation? Or are you just going to keep trying to set up some stupid rules?
Yeah, well, I want to set up some stupid rules. That's what I want to do.
If you want this guy muted, I'm really trigger happy right now.
Yeah, I bet.
We're trying
Just,
to
his
That's
attitude
the
is
problem.
like, it's annoying.
Right.
Okay, so can you
wanna get
demonstrate?
started?
Listen, just answer the question, dude. Can you demonstrate that Christians actually do not have knowledge of God given to them by God? Can you demonstrate that is not the case?
All right. I'm going to assume you agree to my rules. If you don't, let me know, and I'll begin. Is that fine with you?
Yeah, that works.
All righty. So, just to be clear, what I said was that I don't think you're special. I don't think that you have any more knowledge about the world than I do, and that you can't justify it. That's what I think. Now, the basis for me doing that, and kind of the worldview from which I'm operating, is that. So, what I'm saying is not that I can justify my senses. What I'm saying is that you can't justify your senses any more than I can, or to any greater degree than I can, given certain fundamental assumptions. That is, that the external reality exists, that we can trust our senses, that the future will resemble the past, and that we can understand the world through logic and reason. Now, my basis for that conclusion that you're not special, given those parameters, is inductive, not deductive, which means that I'm not saying that it is categorically true or that it is definitionally true. I'm saying that what I'm doing is I'm taking a bunch of specific examples that are all consistent, and I'm extracting a general principle that is applied in all cases and holding that to be provisionally true until I can see a counterexample. So in this worldview, I do not have to establish that the thing is true beyond any doubt. I need to provide sufficient evidence first to justify it as a general principle, and then that holds true in a number of cases. And then I've met my initial burden, and I'm justified in holding that statement to be true until or unless you can provide me with evidence or reason to conclude it's not true. Are you with me so far?
Now, should I have had to go through all this stuff for these guys? Like, no, it's basic, and this is like how basic argumentation works, and they should know that. Do I have to go through this with these guys? You betcha I do, because I probably just avoided 4 of their, attempts to defeat the argument that I'm about to make right then and there. And look how much they whine about me going through this. Like, get on with it. I can't get on with it because this stuff is, you will go to this stuff once you're in trouble if I don't nail it down now. So I'm nailing it down.
Mm-hmm.
You are? Yes.
That's enough.
Yeah, we heard what you said.
Yeah, that's enough. So go ahead, Gary.
Is that you? Do you
He's just saying that we get it, dude.
Good.
Our burden is to persuade you, but it's really not our burden.
Well, it's not a person. You don't have to persuade me of anything. What you have to do is you have to provide me. So I'll lay out my case. First, before I lay out my case, I
Okay,
haven't done that
but
yet.
define what you'll accept as sufficient evidence to persuade you.
So what I'm going to need, here's what I'll do is I'm going to do that, right? But what I want you to understand in terms of what that evidence, the form that that evidence can take or needs to take, is that it needs to be a counterexample. Once, and again, only once I've established that there is a general rule and that there is a pattern that suggests that it is reasonable to conclude that you are not special, then the burden will shift to you. And at that point, and only that point, will you be under an obligation, if you want to win the argument, to provide me with a counterexample or some justification that suggests that you are special. Are we clear?
I never said I was special, so.
Okay, so I don't mean to get into the technique weeds here, but so he's being cute here because technically what he said was not that he was special. He said that I couldn't prove that he wasn't special. Rather than getting into, yes, you did, no, I didn't, what I do is I immediately just clarify that by reversing the polarity of my statement and seeing whether he agrees with that. So watch.
Oh, so you don't think that you're special? You don't think that you have more knowledge of me with respect to your ability
you can
to
have it
justify the
too.
fundamental assumptions of reality? Is that right?
No, you can listen. When it comes to the knowledge of God, you can have it too.
Well, I'm not talking about the knowledge of God. I'm talking absent the knowledge of God. So you
What
purport
special
to
knowledge
know.
do I have? Hang on. What special knowledge do I have that you don't have unless it's in relation to the existence of God?
All right, what I'm saying is that you say that knowing that God exists, my understanding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, my understanding is that you say that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that God exists, and that as a result of that knowledge and that knowledge alone, you can say that the external reality exists, that you can trust your senses, that the future will resemble the past, and that logic and reason are reasonable ways to go about understanding the world.
Yep.
Is that correct?
And I think you can do that too, but you can't account for why you can do that. Okay,
Right.
so we believe atheists can know things, but they can't account for how it is they can know things in a chance universe. Okay, so we ask them to account for how they can know things or have access to the true state of affairs in a not God world.
Right. So what you're saying actually is a lot weaker than what you said originally, which is that
What
I
did I
can't
say
know
originally?
things. Well, you said that I can't know.
I never said you can't know things,
Well, I'm
dude.
glad we cleared that up.
I can quote Bonson and Van Til right now
Sure.
in relation
So
to this type
you're
of argumentation that
right.
says that atheists can know things. Like, for example, they say we say atheists can count, but they can't account for counting. They
I'm
can
aware.
know,
Yeah.
but they can't account for how they can know things.
Right. So you're saying that you're justified in knowing things like that your senses are real as a result of your knowledge of God and that alone. Is that right? And as long as I don't acknowledge the existence of God, I can't know those same things, or I can't justify my knowledge, I should say, of those same things.
I didn't say that.
Is
Never
that
said
right?
that.
All right. What
I
is
never
wrong
said
with
that.
what I said?
So you guys remember when Darth Dawkins was asking me questions and I responded to him with nuance and he lost his ever-loving mind? This is how you deal with somebody who's trying to give you nuance and you're trying to get clarity and they're trying to be difficult because they have some subtlety that whatever language you're using isn't grasping it. Is that if they want to use some different language, then you parse the distinction between the language they're using and the language you're using, and you can get down to the point that they're trying to make. And as you'll see in this case, once you do that, that point, which seems to be something, it evaporates. It becomes nothing. And so this is sort of like false nuance, right? And, I can drill down and I can show that it's nothing and that what I'm saying is fine, and then I force him to agree to it by drilling down and not just losing my ever-loving mind and muting him. So that's a difference between somebody who knows what they're doing and somebody who knows how to cry and yell and run away.
Well, I never said that you couldn't do that.
How did I get that wrong then? So let me state it again, and you can tell me where I went wrong. What I said was that, in your view, unless or until I acknowledge the existence of God, I can't justify believing that, for example, my senses are real. But
No,
because
I
you
believe
acknowledge
you
the
can.
existence of
No,
God,
I be,
you can justify that your senses are reliable. Is that right?
no, I believe you can be justified in knowing your sense perceptions are reliable.
Right.
But why can you do that is the question.
Well,
We
isn't
we are
that the
accounting
same
this.
thing as
We can
justifying?
account
What's
for
the
this.
difference?
What'd you say?
I said, what is the difference between you being able to justify the reliability of your senses and saying that, well, no, you can justify the reliability of your senses, but you can't account for them? What's the difference between those two things? Because you seem stuck on that distinction.
Yeah, I'm asking, in a not God world,
Mm-hmm.
how is it that chance brings about reliable sense perception so that you can know things?
Okay.
So if this was a cross-examination and I had a little bit more control, I probably would have been a little bit firmer and I would have stuck on that question. But as you know, you guys, I'm having trouble getting these guys to talk to me, so I'm having to kind of react a little bit differently than I normally would. And maybe that was a mistake, and maybe I should have continued to press him on that, like the difference between in being unable to justify something and being able to account for something, and just continuing to parse on that nuance, because I think he's changing the subject because there's no difference. But I kind of let it go, and we go down a different rabbit trail from here on out. But that's the technique, right? And then if it mattered and you really wanted to stick on it, then you would just hammer on that. What's the difference between justifying and accounting? Why are you refusing to use my word? What's the difference between my word and your word? And either there'll be something, and that happens, or there won't. I think here probably there isn't.
So when you say a not God world, isn't it fair to say that what you mean is simply that unless one acknowledges the existence of God, that you are in a not God world? Isn't that accurate?
Okay, listen. So, do we have reliable sense perceptions? You would
Well,
probably say that you do. I would, hang on, let me finish. You would say that you do. I would say that we do.
Okay, so
Okay?
we can agree that we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm saying God can account for why we have accurate sense perceptions in relation to truth.
Mhm.
Okay?
Yeah.
How do you account for that in a world that is fundamentally unreasonable,
So
right?
what I am saying
Or comes
is that
about through chance?
I'm saying
See, guys, now he's trying to change the subject again. And what do we say about doing that? How do we feel about that? I don't want to talk about something else. I want to talk about this.
that I do not think that you can account for that. That is, in fact, what is at issue, right? Whether or not I can account for it is not what's at issue, because you said that what I said was wrong, and you want me to justify what I said. What I said was rather that you can't use the existence of God to justify the reliability of your senses any more than I could use any other thing to justify the reliability of my senses. That's the point of contention. Unless it's not, do you agree with me that you have no better ability to justify the reliability of my senses, or your senses rather, than I have to justify the reliability of mine, given only that the difference between us is your belief in God? Or knowledge, I should say, that God exists?
Honestly, I didn't follow all that.
I mean, I think what I said was coherent, but it was long and there was a lot of steps to it. So, in that situation, what you do is you break it down and you get agreement at each point. So, watch me do that now.
Let me try it again. You think God exists, right?
Yep,
In fact, you know God exists, right?
that's right.
Okay. And you understand that I don't know that, right?
No, I think you do know that, but you're suppressing the truth and unrighteousness.
Okay. You understand that I don't think that I know that, right?
I'm not so sure about that.
Okay. You understand that I'm telling you that I don't know that, right?
Hang on. Darth Dawkins messaged me. Go ahead and say that again.
You understand that I am telling you that I don't know that.
Yeah, I understand that. Yep.
Okay, and so are you then willing to accept for the sake of this argument that I in fact do not know that, subject to your ability to demonstrate
No.
the incorrectness of that later? So you want to assume that I do know that, or you
Yeah, I think
insist
you do
that I
know that.
do know that? Okay.
I insist that you do know that.
Okay.
So now we're at an inflection point because now he's trying to gaslight me and tell me that what I understand and what I believe isn't what I really believe, and that he knows my mind better than I do. So, what probably a lot of people do in that situation, and he's hoping I will do, is that I will flip out, lose it, and start telling him to stop gaslighting me and that I know my mind better than he does and screw him. But, obviously I'm not going to do that. And he's trying to derail the conversation, which is fine. But what ends up happening, though, is that now I have to establish that he's wrong about that. And it sort of changes the conversation. So this is not the path that I intended to go down. And basically the reason I didn't really want to or intend to go down this path is because I've been down this path before. If you guys have seen my taking down Darth Dawkins Lieutenant's video, you know exactly where I'm going to end up going here. And so I'm like, all right, well, I guess I have to retread some ground here and educate this man about, why the argument that he's insisting on making is going to be problematic. And so I'm going to try and give him, an out here to just be like, look, let's save that for another day and maybe you can think about it. And, but he's going to insist on it. So we're going to end up having to go down that path, which is fine too.
Well, I mean, I think that maybe is where we're going to, do you want to go down that path or do you want to go down the path that we started down? Because they're different.
I don't care.
Okay, well, so then if you want to go down that path, you can maintain your current assertion that I must know. If you want to go down a different path, then you're going to have to assume for the sake of the argument that in fact I don't know. Otherwise, I'm going to have to demonstrate it for you, and that's going to be a different argument. So which way do you want to go?
I don't care, dude. It's up to you, man. This
It's
is
really
your
up to
game.
you because you need to make the concession if you want to go the other way. Otherwise, we're headed down the path of me demonstrating that I must not know. Which way do you want to go? Do you want to go down that path or should we skip it?
I don't care, dude. I just told you, go any path you want to go.
This is kind of interesting because he's kind of trying to stymie me by refusing to, by refusing to answer the question I'm asking him about which path he wants to go down, whilst still refusing to give the concession, which will determine whether or not we can go down the path I want to go down. And it's obvious I want to go down a particular path. So what he's hoping I'm going to do is I'm just going to say, fine, let's move on then, and I'm going to go down the path I wanted to go down. But of course, if I do that, then I do that without the concession, and I'm just going to run into problems. So I can't do that. So, this is another point where, a lot of people probably would get super frustrated because he won't make a decision. But it's actually really not that hard to force the decision. Watch.
Okay. Well, I'll just ask you more simply then. Are you willing to concede for the sake of the argument that I do not know?
No.
Okay. That makes the choice then. So you're telling me that you know that God exists. Is that right?
Yes.
And you know that beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Yep.
Okay. And anybody who says they have doubt is lying to themselves.
I wouldn't say if a person has a doubt, they're lying.
Well,
but I
you
think
said
if
that you know
they
it beyond a shadow of a doubt.
I think if they commit to the doubt and they insist that is the true state of affairs, they are lying to themselves.
Okay. So you're telling me that, so you know it beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Yes.
But you agree that other people do have doubts.
People do have doubts.
Okay. And if somebody has a doubt as to whether God exists, then that means that they don't know it beyond a shadow of a doubt, right?
Oh my gosh.
See why I said I didn't want to get muted?
Yeah, people listen.
Mm-hmm.
We believe that God has made himself known through but listen, you know what Romans 1 says, that all are without excuse, for God has made himself known through his invisible attributes known through the things that are made. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that people won't have doubts. Okay. People have doubts, But if they are faithful to their doubts, then they are suppressing the truth and unrighteousness. Okay.
No,
So, like me
not
myself,
okay.
See how he's trying to sort of, I don't know, try and get out of this by laying out a bunch of premises, really quickly and sort of trying to bulldoze his way through getting my agreement by going okay and then like just moving on without giving me a chance to say whether it's okay or not. And I deal with that by just going, no, not okay. And I'll just interject and sort of sprinkle those throughout and kind of gently try and stop him as he goes along. And then when he gets to the end, what I would do is just say, like, no, none of that follows. And I tried to stop you when, you said things that were incorrect or that I didn't agree with that we need to address, but you kept going. So now we're going to have to go through, we're going to have to start again. And next time I ask you to stop, and we'll talk about it. Okay? Because no, none of that stuff that you said follows. Just because you laid the whole thing out doesn't mean I agree with it. I don't agree with a bunch of it, and I can tell you where the problems are, and I tried to. And that's just sort of, a thing that doesn't really happen in cross-examination, but I found you have to do it in these debates because people like to just sort of ramble.
Even if I was to have a doubt for some reason, say I have certainty in the existence of God because God has revealed to me that he is, but then I see a parasite, and then I have the thought, man, is there really a God in a world of parasites? Like, okay, I had a doubt, but I naturally trust in the certain revelation that God has given me of his existence. Okay.
Okay, how can you have a doubt when there's a certain revelation? How can you not know? How can you even question his existence when he's written it on your heart?
That doesn't, like, how is a doubt inconsistent with a certainty? Like, it'd be
What
like,
do you mean, how is a doubt inconsistent with certainty? Are you nuts?
dude, are you certain? Listen, are you certain that you're not a brain in a vat?
No, there is a doubt.
You think you might be a brain in a vat?
I don't think that it is a realistic possibility. I think the doubt is vanishing
There
and
you
small.
go.
But
There you
by
go.
definition,
There you go.
there is a doubt. And you're telling me
Can I
there
ask-
can be no doubt.
Oh my
Sorry, bud. This
God.
is a
This is
two-person conversation.
just a dude.
I'd like to add one thing.
I don't want you to add one thing. Please shut up unless you
Dude,
need to do moderation. Thank
just
you.
stop, or you're just Mr. Anderson, chill out. It's just, your bad attitude is what's going to get you muted, not because somebody's scared. Listen, God exists. And so if God truly exists, there's no argument you can bring to defeat the reality of God. No one's intimidated by some valid argument that someone brings that cannot be sound. Okay, but what's going to get you muted is your bad attitude.
Yeah, I would also like to say that
I don't care what
doubt
you'd
can
like to say. This is a two-person conversation. Mute me if you have to, but that means you lose.
Yeah, shut the hell up.
Perform the Parker Brothers maneuver.
doubt, just like reasoning.
Objects.
Reasoning
I'm
can
going to tell you
only
once
exist
again.
if
I don't need your.
just like illusion.
input.
And illusion can only exist on the
Objects.
background of, or on the, if there's a backdrop of,
Oh, you guys,
that which
I'm
is not
muted.
an illusion. So of course you can have doubt in presence of knowing. It doesn't mean you're having them simultaneously. If you're in doubt, then you're using your reasoning faculties, and that reasoning could cause you to with all kinds of crazy things, like the ideas that Mr. Anderson has come to believe, right? His reasoning has led him into some quite absurd things.
So I was going to do a cut here because, like, I mean, we're clearly not having a conversation at this point because they've decided to mute me. And especially considering, like, I got this specific guy's explicit agreement that this was going to be a two-person conversation and that he was not going to interfere to try and sail in and white knight this guy, try and, like, rescue him from himself when he got into trouble. And I told him they were going to get into trouble. And he did it anyway. And then when I told him to stop, he muted me. And so I was going to just, like, cut it here. But, I mean, like, and you can see, like, he's paused, right, because he's run out of things to say. And I thought, oh, this, he's done. But no, he's not done. He's gonna pontificate now. Watch.
So there's a difference between doubt and certainty, reasoning and knowing. It's our position that you should you presuppose knowing, You presuppose certainty in all of your endeavors, and the extent to which you are getting closer to that thing is, I think, your proximity to what's real. And the best way that I found is to follow Christianity. Mr. Anderson, doesn't want to do that. So he's just going to live in a world of doubt.
He's just got a bad attitude, man.
Yeah, I mean, a doubt is just simply asking a question, right?
Yeah.
The outcome, and then along
All
the
right,
way,
I'm going to tell them that they need to
a
either
question
unmute me or this
arises
this
in the
conversation
form
is over.
of a doubt, and
Yeah.
then you resolve that.
Yeah, he thinks it's impossible to doubt something. If it's just not.
Question.
Yeah, and you're like, you can have certainty in something, right? Like, for example, say your wife has always shown that she loves you and she cares about you. You can, when someone asks you, are you faithful to the revealed faithfulness that she has shown to you? And you say, yeah. But it doesn't mean that you can't have a doubt. You can have a doubt, but then you just move past the doubt because of
All right,
the revealed
I've
truth of her
told him he has
faithfulness
about a
to you.
minute's worth of my patience.
Right. And so that can be the case with God. So God has certainly revealed the truth of his existence. Just because we get a doubt, that just shows that humans doubt. But we should be confident in the revealed truth that God has given us.
Interesting how the Bible covers this in a way when it says that when you lean on your own understanding, your own, reasoning, when you do that, you can convince yourself of all kinds of things.
Don't tell me Box has been kicked out. No.
He's left. He changed the name of the room and he left it to us.
Shit, he's been heisted. Like, that was his whole personality for like a year, and you've just stolen it from him.
Where's my moderator?
I quite like apologetics. It has it. Look at it. It looks really beautiful up there. Boy,
Are there any moderators in this chat?
War of the Worlds is so much better.
No, I disagree.
Yeah, we disagree with you.
What do we have for gamers? Objects over Bach. Get me my moderator power.
I tried. I don't have the power.
I'm in charge of moderation powers.
Okay.
I'm the ruler now that Not Fox is gone.
What did Mr. Anderson do?
He's just being rude. So a mod was asking him a question, and he's like, I didn't ask you to ask a question. Don't ask me a question. And so, like I said, no one is muting him because of his question. There's no question. Listen, there's no question that we're worried about in here. Because, listen, if we are confident that God exists, then even a valid argument against God, it would not be sound. Right, because it isn't in relation to the true state of affairs. So you can have valid arguments that just, they're not true, right? So we're not worried about any argument.
And just to close the circle on this, I've now been banned from that channel and its sister channel. Maybe not for that long. You never know. Sometimes they do temporary bans, but I guess they really don't like me there. I mean, I thought I was being pretty polite, but apparently I was being rude to somebody I wasn't talking to. I don't know. Do you guys think that I had a bad attitude and that's the reason that they had to, punt me? Or do you think it might just be because they, don't like being embarrassed? Let me know.